where I'm going to take it over here and talk about what our delivery looks like. So the important part of delivery is it starts with onboarding. And onboarding is really important because while sales is the first impression with the company, the onboarding is the first impression with the team. So we want to make sure that we're getting things off on the right foot here. So there's really 4 things that we're looking for to establish during onboarding. And the first is to make sure there's a path and make sure that the client knows the path and our team knows the path. So when we're setting up our onboarding, that's one of the areas that I spend a lot of time in. Is every 6 months or so, I go back and look at what our onboarding practice looks like. What are the steps we're taking? When do we do what? How can we amend it so that way every onboarding is not the same, because every client is a little different. So we want to make sure we have a clear path to follow, but that path can be changed if a client's priorities are different. You know, if a client comes in and their books are a mess and that's what they want to worry about, we got to get that cleaned up first before we can do any consulting. Sometimes a client comes in and the most important thing is they have this one question that they've came to us for. So we need to make sure we don't push that one question back to 7 weeks, because that's when it's in our onboarding process. We need to make sure we get to that question as soon as possible and the client knows we're going to get to that question. So that's really the first thing, is that there's a path and the team knows how to deliver that path and the client's aware of what that path's going to look like, so their expectations are clear. And that's the next bullet point there, is manage those expectations. You know, what I always tell our onboarding team is our clients need to understand, or need to know from the beginning, that they're being dealt with by experts. We're coming in as experts. We're coming in as having done hundreds and hundreds of onboardings. The client needs to trust us that we know what we're doing and we know how to get from point A to point B. But with that, we can't just go and tell the client, trust us, we've got this. We got to go in and say, this is what it's going to take to get us where you want to go. And we know this is where you want to go. Do you agree with it? Is this where you want to be in 6 weeks? Is this where you want to be in 7 weeks? And establish those expectations from day one and be like, by the time we're done with this onboarding, you're going to have a pipeline report, you're going to have financial statements, you're going to have a forecast that we can update at any time, and you're going to have all these things that are going to help you run your business better. And it's really important that you establish those things in the onboarding and upfront. Highlight the firm's value. So obviously we do that during the sales process. The client should know what they're getting. But again, this is just another opportunity for us to come in and say, and remind the client, but also make sure we're in agreement. Why did you sign up for our services? You signed up for our services because you want to have a clearer picture on your finances. You want to be able to make sure you're making decisions with the most information possible. So that's what we're doing there, is we're highlighting our firm's value and say, next time you make a decision 8 weeks from now, you're not going to be throwing darts at a dartboard. You're going to have a lot of information to help you make that decision, and that's really what our value is. And then lastly, it has to be scalable. You know, if you're going to grow and you're going to have a lot of onboardings, you're not going to just be doing one onboarding a quarter, and you want to grow as a company and you want to be able to do this over and over and over again, you have to have a process that you can do over and over again with not having 50 people involved in the process. It has to be a very efficient process that gets to point A to point B as fast as possible, but also as accurate as possible. You don't want to rush through things and make sure that you're like, oh, this step doesn't really matter, we'll skip it this time. And then 6 months from now, you find out, oh, we probably should have done that step because now we're making mistakes in the accounting or making mistakes in the forecast. And so those are really the 4 steps to onboarding a new client. You have to have all 4 of those things to